welcome to Medical Dialogues. I am Dr. Nandita Mohan. We all know rare diseases may be uncommon, but the impact they have on individuals and their loved ones is profound. We mark today as the World Rare Disease Day, and today we celebrate the strength, resilience, and courage of the rare disease community. Now, World Rare Disease Day is a global campaign that aims to raise awareness about the challenges faced by those living with rare diseases and their families. So, this year's theme is For Rare Everywhere. So, joined us today is Prasanna Shirol, a rare disease advocate, co founder, and director ORDI, and Dr. Neerja Gupta, who's an additional professor, Division of Genetics, Department of Pediatrics, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Now, to give a brief about Mr. Prasanna, he is the member of the Central Ethics Committee on Human Research at ICMR, New Delhi, since May 2020. Co-founder, former founding president, LSDSS, which is the Lysosomal Storage Disorders Support Society, member, Global Patient Advisory Council for Rare Disease, and Patient Advisory Council member, India of Parexel, a rare champion of Hope Awardee 2019 from Global Gene. He is the Advisory Council member of Karnataka Hemophilia Society, Davangere. Now, to brief about Dr. Neerja, as I mentioned, she is the additional professor, Division of Genetics, Department of Pediatrics at AIIMS, New Delhi. She has received the IC Verma Outstanding Researcher Award 2024, 8th Dr. IC Verma Excellence in Research Award for Young Pediatricians 2020. She is also the recipient of Clinical Genetics Society Fellowship UK 2012, Nodal Officer for the Center of Excellence or Rare Diseases, AIIMS, New Delhi, under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare 2022. She is also the Coordinator Quality Assurance WHO Birth Defect Surveillance Program across SEER, a member of Undiagnosed Disease Network NIH, Secretary Society of Indian Academy of Medical Genetics 2024-2026, and the Treasurer Indian Society of Inborn Error of Metabolism 2024 to 2026. So I welcome both of you to Medical Dialogues for being a part of this World Rare Disease Day. Great. Ma'am, Dr. Neerja, if I may ask you, what are some of the most significant challenges faced in diagnosing rare diseases?
So challenges are very many. If we want to enumerate them, first main challenge is limited awareness amongst the healthcare professionals, because they may not be well versed with the rare diseases, as the symptomatology may also be mimicking the common conditions. So that is one. Then there is insufficient diagnostic infrastructure at places. We do not have widely available, well-developed infrastructure for the testing and the diagnosis. And then the cost of the testing, genetic testing, is high and is mainly available in the commercial sector, and it is not affordable by many of the patients. Then there is lack of geneticists in various medical colleges across various states, so which hampers the diagnosis, and there is a diagnostic delay when the patient visits a medical college or any hospital. Then there is poor epidemiological data, because we do not have comprehensive prevalence estimate for many of these conditions, so because they are so rare. So that is also could be one factor that can hamper the diagnosis for many of such conditions.
Understood. Ma'am, we all know that India is a vast country, and amid rare diseases, which ones do you think are relatively more often encountered in a country like ours? This can actually probably help sensitize our medical fraternity. What is your take on it?
Yeah. So there are several conditions which are common amongst the rare. And it is a kind of a group of conditions which are common amongst the rare. For example, neuromuscular disorders, which include Duchenne muscular dystrophy, spinal muscular atrophy, and there are very many other type of muscular dystrophies. That is one. Then there is inborn error of metabolism, which has more than 1400 conditions under the ambit of inborn error of metabolism, which includes lysosomal storage disorders like Gaucher disease, Pompe disease, Fabry disease. Then small molecule conditions like various amino acidopathies like phenylketonuria, homocystinuria. Then we have organic acidemias like biotinidase deficiency, maple syrup urine disease, methylmalonic acidemia. So there is a long list which are commonly seen by the physician. Then we have inborn error of immunity. Various type of primary immunodeficiency syndromes are also encountered by pediatricians. Then there could be skin disorders like epidermolysis bullosa, ichthyosis. So these are other common conditions. Then there are some certain genetic endocrinal conditions like Turner syndrome, Noonan syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome, which are relatively common. So, which are frequently seen by specialists, especially in the tertiary care center. So these are it's a few list of few conditions which I have mentioned.
Great, great. Now, coming to you, Mr. Prasanna, how can the healthcare systems better support patients with rare disease along with their families?
See, we have a national policy for rare disease in India since 2021. I think we need to implement it in a full and holistic manner. Then we have Center of Excellence. Currently, there are 13 centers. So we request at least one center per state, and then a hub and spoke model, spread across the country through district hospitals and probably taluk hospitals. Then when it comes to funding, currently we have a challenge in Group 3 condition. There has to be a sustainable funding, at least for those conditions where it is, medical conditions have improved post treatment. Because I understand all are costly, government is finding it difficult, but wherever there is a good medical outcome, those need to be supported. And then we do not have other supportive care. When we talk about 95% diseases do not have treatment, then has to be managed only through supportive care. So that has to be included in the policy, so that then it becomes a real inclusive policy. Then we also need to explore certain existing government policies which can be tweaked to include rare diseases. For example, we have RPWD Act. If we include all genetic condition into RPW Act, those basic facilities of monthly stipend, free travel, reservation in the academic, etc., can be available. Then last but not the least, we have PMJY scheme, which 5 lakh rupees. If that can be extended to all the rated genetic, at least those basic hospitalization cost will be recovered for some families somewhere. They don't have to depend on out of pocket expenditure. And long term, we need to look at sustainable insurance also wherever possible.
Very true, very well documented. Definitely, insurance is a big need for the hour for treating such rare diseases. Now, Dr. Neerja, coming back to you, how can genetic testing or advancements in genomics and various other newer diagnostic tools improve the diagnosis and the treatment aspect of rare diseases?
So there are a big armamentarium for diagnostics for the rare disorders, and the type of genetic testing includes the provisional diagnosis. Based upon the provisional diagnosis, we opt for a particular test. For example, chromosomal analysis, you need karyotyping. For some of the conditions, you would need MLPA based test. For some of the conditions, you would need chromosomal microarray, and then whole exome sequencing, and now whole genome sequencing. So there is a big list of tests which are available, but it has to be applied based upon the provisional diagnosis. And then, because it will lead to accurate diagnosis, and once you have accurate diagnosis, then only a targeted treatment can be provided, therapies can be provided to the patient, and that will definitely improve the patient management. Because now we are living in the era of personalized medicine, precision medicine. So it is very, very important to have accurate diagnosis so that accurate treatment can be initiated. And this is also true for some of the hereditary cancers as well. So apart from this diagnostic testing, we also need to have also some screening strategies. For example, newborn screening strategies. Because for newborn screening is nowadays available. It is a standard of care in US, but it is not yet as a program in India. So that should come up in near future as a program, so that it is implemented across India. It is there in certain states like Kerala, like in Delhi, So in certain state it is still there, but we need to strengthen our system. We need to tune our system with for these programs. And then other program is carrier screening. So carrier screening for the common conditions can also be in place, like thalassemia, spinal muscular atrophy. So these are the two disorders for which probably we as India are ready to go ahead with. And then for the high risk families, we can have expanded screening for the high risk families, which means that there is a previous history of certain genetic condition in a family or consanguinity or something like that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Prasanna, what can be done to actually raise awareness about these rare diseases among the general public and medical professionals? What modes or what methods can actually one apply to?
It's not one method. I think we need to take a multiple approach. One is for medical fraternity. I think we need to include more chapters and in the curriculum itself, so that the young doctors who are coming out are aware about the genetic condition. Because I was told not enough courses or the chapters available in the medical curriculum. When it comes to public, I think it is a long way. We have such a huge country with the difficult different communication challenges, languages challenges. I think government has to take a mega awareness campaign like what they did for polio vaccination. Every person knows do bund campaign. Similarly, genetic conditions impact has to be spread across the country. And apart from that, there can be some bridging courses for the doctors who are now. There are many lakhs of pediatrician, but they are not trained to handle the genetic condition. I think basic bridging courses are made available. Then they can be a good referral system to the COE and specialist. And apart from that, regularly, if you look at ORDA, last 11 years, we have been talking about mass awareness. Yesterday itself, we concluded our 10th edition of Race for Seven, which is one of the longest and multi-city event in the world, if you can say. And we conducted in 21 cities. And good part is all the stakeholders participated: medical hospitals, doctors, COEs. And another important is some university like Batinda, Punjab, they voluntarily came and asked, we want to conduct Race for Seven in our city. I think it is a cascading effect over a period of time. I think from one city we have come here. Earlier, we were talking about 40-50 specialists in the country 10 years back. Now we are talking about 200 plus specialists in the country. MD DM genetics have, I think, number of seats have increased from only 2 seats in the country. I think is every stakeholder has to do their bit, awareness in India.
Very true, sir. Holding hands together only gives the end result. So if it is actually a chain, if a chain is built up, then definitely the result will be a positive one. Very well said. Now coming back, Dr. Neerja, what we're talking about recent breakthroughs, talking about treatment, diagnosis aspect of rare diseases. So according to you, are there any recent breakthroughs in the treatment aspect that you are particularly excited about?
So actually every day is full with excitement because some or the other thing is popping up through WhatsApp and various media, social media, etc. So the latest one is our own India product, that is the hemophilia A gene therapy, which was made by Dr. Alok Srivastava from CMC Vellore. So I'm really excited about it, that yes, India can do it. So that is one thing. Apart from this, there is a movement through government, through Niti Aayog, where indigenous products like nitisinone for tyrosinemia, eliglustat for Gaucher disease, and many other drugs are being made in India, and it is available at a very low cost. So the excitement is around making products in India, because we know that therapies are available for enzyme replacement therapy, substrate reduction therapy for lysosomal storage disorders. Then you have RNA based therapies for SMA, DMD, or ASO based therapies for DMD, and gene therapy for SMA. So that is all there. But what is being done in India is very, very exciting because it is available to our patients. They are not, they are able to avail it because it is at low cost. So that is one big thing. We have food for special medical purposes, which is now being made in India. Earlier, we used to import them. So earlier the cost was huge, and it was borne by either patient themselves or by through various government agencies. So certain companies were also providing compassionate access program, but now if we have made in India product, indigenous product, then we they definitely have better future for our rare disease patients, because then they can avail that treatment.
Very good, very well said, ma'am. Now, Mr. Prasanna, again, how can patients and caregivers can get actually involved in clinical trials and research for rare diseases?
Yeah, again here we need awareness among general public and especially the patients, community and caregivers, because there are a lot of misconception about clinical trial. That's number one. Number two, there is a lack of proper information about availability of clinical trials being conducted in India itself is not there. Okay, we have only one website, but people, general public or a patient find it very difficult to find, you know, any particular condition, is there a clinical trial or not. In fact, medical doctors also mention, it's very difficult. So I think that simplified version of list of trials available in the country and their hospital should be made available freely. Second, even in the hospital where the trials are being conducted, they have to display outside saying that following trials are conducted. Then the doctors need to inform and educate the patients about what are the clinical trials, plus and minuses, because there is again a lot of negativity about clinical trials. Okay, so those need to be clarified and increase participation. And finally, from the company side, I think we all talk about patient centricity. Even the design itself, we need to include the patient community from the clinical trial design. What is expected, what are the outcomes, what are the benefits of a particular condition. I think that will increase more participation. Today it is looks like more of a one-sided. Okay, there is no choice for the patients. I think that's it.
Yes. Now, talking about biggest misconceptions, if I may ask both of you, what are the biggest misconceptions about rare diseases that you actually wish to dispel? Dr. Neerja, if you can start first.
So first of all, believing that they affect very small number of people globally, that is a biggest misconception. And that a second misconception is that they are not a significant healthcare concern because of their low prevalence. So that is another big misconception. And also that they are that research, treatment options, etc., are readily available or readily not available. That is also a misconception, because nowadays research is very much into the rare disease, and we know that the treatments are becoming available. Cost is an issue, so that is also a misconception. And I think and another misconception is that high cost of these treatment is for the profit of pharmacological companies, rather than understanding that what efforts go into making such medicine. So that is also one misconception. But I think with made in India product, high quality product which are at low cost, this misconception would become a reality, because then the cost will come down if it is made in India. Prasanna ji, you may add
Great.
further.
Mr. Prasanna.
Yeah, definitely
you
I
may
agree
add
with
your
you, Dr. Guptaji. I think apart from that, many general public and doctor feel that rare diseases are not treatable. Okay, because there is a lack of information. So I think many conditions are now treatable. Second, rare genetic condition people, even if it's treatable, they cannot get married or deliver babies. But even in India, we have cases where they are treatable, they have delivered a baby, living a healthy life. Then all rare disease treatment are costly, which is not true. Today most of the diseases like diets and other things even can be treated in a small cost of say a lakh of rupees per year, or even some medicines. It varies. Okay, one spectrum we have costly diseases, but because of the rare disease, the way we started across the country, because of the costly nature of the treatment, everybody thinks rare diseases are costly. Okay, so I think that's a misconception. Then third, whenever the family goes to the doctor says there's a 25% chances of delivering. So that 25 they took it wrongly. Okay, first baby is next for 3 babies will be normal, which is not true. The 25% is risk, or 50%. Every pregnancy is there, But people think that okay, I deliver 4 babies and two will be, one is not rare disease and three can be normal. I think these are the few things.
Now, again, if I may ask, the next question is also directed to the both of you. How do you see the future of rare disease treatment, which has been evolving in the coming next decade? How do you see the future of it? Dr. Neerja, if you can start.
Future is bright because of the breakthroughs which are coming every now and then. So we are hopeful, and that many more patients will get benefit through these therapies. Rare disease policy which is very effective in treating group 1 and group 2 disorders. Many patients who were not being treated earlier are being treated through this policy. So we should thank our government, who has brought this policy. At least it's better that it happened. So earlier nothing was there, so something is there. So, and we hope that some more options or policies or improvement in various things will come up in near future as we move along. Prasanna ji, you can add.
Yeah, thank you. As you said, definitely is very exciting, and all rare disease patients and families live on hope, and there is a lot of hope across the globe. And recent news, which we heard that an NMD baby or SMA baby treated in the womb itself. I think those are the exciting news which we look forward. I think we have one Pompe case also where ERT started in the womb itself. Probably may not have reported. I think those are the one spectrum of the disease. Second, slightly, while we have so much hope and exciting, we still don't know what is the efficacy of this medicine, because both government and parents also go all out to raise funds, collect funds of crores and crores of rupees, and ultimately that has to deliver the result. I think that is a small thing. But otherwise, the new age technologies like AI modeling based diagnostics, AI based modeling for clinical trials, and then the use of digitals in conducting the clinical trial at home itself, where the patient need not have to travel even for the small test. The new age gadgets which is helping the patient for better management and monitoring. I think everything looks fantastic at the end.
So it is going to be an exciting journey henceforth now, with latest developments in technology and research coming together. So lastly, Mr. Prasanna, if I may ask, what support resources are available for patients and families who are dealing with rare disease on a daily basis?
I think we have to 2013 we launched our helpline, rare disease helpline. I think that is where the support system started. Then the genetic centers, top-notch hospital like AIIMS, government, NIMANS, PGI, Chandigarh, diagnostics started happening, and few private hospitals. Apart from that, when it comes to information, we have portals from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare itself. There is a rare disease website available where treatment options and treating centers are available. Then ICMR, we have a patient registry initiative which is started. Then we have global companies like Orphanet, and has a complete list of rare disease list, both for medical fraternity to refer. And also there are many patient groups in India now who have their own website, disease specific website, where people, diagnosed patient, can go and approach. And private hospital, lot of genetic centers, genetic counseling centers, everybody offers a lot of information. And very recently, happy to share that Indian government has signed as a co-sponsor to WHA resolution, World Health Assembly resolution. I think that will again, if the resolution passed in April 2025 at WHO level, that will bring a lot of focus and information on the rare disease entire world. I think that is how the world is moving.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Neerja and Prasanna, Mr. Prasanna, for joining us today at Medical Dialogues and talking to us on this World Rare Disease Day. We definitely need more and more awareness, and taking insights from experts like yourself, it's definitely going to go a long way. So we definitely wish the rare disease community all the best for the long journey ahead, and so that more and more people can actually get to diagnose it, raising awareness, get to early diagnosis, and then start prompt treatment accordingly. So thank you so much once again for joining us today at Medical Dialogues.
Thank you so much for hosting this on the World Rare Disease Day. Thank you.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.